Hey guys, I'm Urizi. This story is all about what if Naruto was raised by the Inuzuka family? What misadventures could stem from such an upbringing? Before we proceed with the story, please like and subscribe to this channel if you liked the video, and don't forget to check the description for the other works of the author if you liked the story. Let's start. Chapter 57, Now or Never. A round, rolling mass burst out of the dome, followed by a hurried patter of footsteps as the 7 other Konohans scrambled towards freedom. The rolling mass went about for a bit, before skidding to a halt to reveal a rather intense Chuji Akimichi. Taking a good look at their surroundings, it was then that the retrieval team finally got a clear view of who they were up against. Perched up in the treetops were a trio of youngsters, probably in their early teens, 2 freaky-looking boys and a red-headed girl, and standing on ground level was the culprit behind the dome, a large boy with his hair in a mohawk. "Impossible!" cried Mohawk Boy, eyes widening in disbelief. That guy just went through my Duradomo like marzipan. Who knew the tubby had it in him?" piped up a 6-armed boy. At the tubby comment, Chuji's eye began to twitch, and then, the outburst. "I'm not fat." "Yeah," sneered 6 Arms, jabbing thumb towards Mohawk Boy. "And Jirobo over here is the very definition of fit and trim." By now, mocking laughter had joined the taunt, and Chuji was trembling with barely suppressed anger. "Lay off him!" Ino roared. "Don't listen to them, Chuji. You really are pathetic if you need this pitiable excuse of a kunoichi to defend you," scoffed Jirobo. "At least I can come to terms with how I look." "Pitiable!" Ino screeched. "I'll show you pitiable." She moved to lunge at the older boy, when Chuji moved in and grabbed her arm. As angry as he was, Chuji knew that losing his temper would only give the enemy the advantage. Mentally counting to 10, he faced Jirobo and spoke with the most even tone he could muster. "Looks like you're the pathetic one if you have to resort to trash talk." Jirobo leered. "If you think that, let's settle this mano a mano, shall we?" Chuji shifted into a fighting stance. "You're on." "No you're not." Ino interjected. "I'm in on this too." "Ino. Stay out of this." Chuji hissed. "This guy isn't someone we can take lightly." "You think I don't know that?" Ino shot back. "In case you forgot, my brother was one of those who fought these guys. And this is why I want you to back down," Chuji reasoned. "If this guy was able to injure Datara Chuji, stop treating me like a little girl." Ino shouted. "I haven't been a little girl since we became a team. And as a team, we're going to clean this guy's clocks together. 1-on-1 or 2-on-1, I know I'm still gonna win," said Jirobo. "Prepare to get crushed. For the love of God, Jirobo, stop beating around the bush and just kill 'em all." A 2-headed boy hissed, obviously impatient. "Come on Seikon, live a little," Jirobo wheedled plaintively. "I wanna spice things up a bit." "Jirobo, shut your trap and just do the damn job." Seikon snapped. Teiwa was right. That Bozozuka was more useful than you'll ever be. "Called it," grunted the red-headed female. "Shut up!" cried the large boy, plugging his ears. "I'm not useless." "Then stop being a burden and prove it," Seikon goaded. "I'm not a burden. I'm helpful." Jirobo howled, gouging out a boulder and hurling it towards the Konohanin. "Everyone, scatter!" commanded Shikamaru. "I'll show you all!" Jirobo screamed, scooping out another boulder. Byubunbika no Jutsu. With enlarged hands, Chuji grabbed onto the rampaging russet and held on fast. "Chuji, what are you Naruto began. "Rest easy, guys," said the Akimichi, trying his best to restrain the furious Jirobo. "You go on without us. Ino and I'll take care of this clown." "Chuji, we just can't dash," the Inuzuka pressed on. This time Ino took charge. "Naruto, as much as a game of verbal hot potato sounds fun, we just don't have the time. But dash. Go." Shikamaru grabbed Naruto's arm and pulled him aside. "As troublesome she is, Ino's right. Time is of the essence here. We have to go. Now." "But Dash," the blonde insisted. "But nothing," said Chuji, amidst the din. "If we have to fight, we'll fight," but we didn't come all this way just to lose Uchiha to the enemy. Naruto opened his mouth to rebut, but could find no valid point. For once, Choji had the last word. With a heavy heart, he turned to the rest of the retrieval team. Let's move. He gave Ino and Choji one last look before leaping off. Take care of yourselves. Don't worry, Choji grunted. We will, right Ino? Right. Chirped the Yamanaka with a hearty nod. After them. Seikon bellowed. Don't let a single one escape. You got it, said Kidomaru, leaping after the Konohinin. I'm gonna wipe the floor with their skins. Hey. Save some of the carnage for me. Teiwa called, giving pursuit as well. Seikon was the last to leave. Mess this up and there'll be hell to pay, threatened the two-headed boy, leveling a hard glare at Jirobo. Get off me. Jirobo roared, elbowing Choji in the stomach. Choji! Ino shouted. Eyes blazing, she turned to Jirobo and dashed towards him before activating a stun bomb. Shinten Shin no Jutsu! She cried, successfully possessing the boy. Choji, now! Jirobo called. Enlarging his right hand, Choji nodded and rushed towards the enemy. But at the very last moment, his hand was caught by Jirobo himself. What the dash? Asked the confused Akimichi. If you thought it would be this easy. Growled the russet, who had somehow regained control of his body. Think again. He struck Choji with a powerful backhand, knocking the younger boy into a tree. I'll kill you quickly and show them all. Jirobo snarled. Doton, Doryu Dango. He ripped out a massive chunk of earth, and hurled it towards Ino and Choji. Choji winced. There was no way on earth anyone could dodge a projectile that big. But then, Ino ran from behind him and jumped onto the incoming boulder. Quickly slapping down several explosive tags on the boulder's meridian, she then jumped off and said the magic word. Katsu. There was a huge explosion, and the boulder shattered, debris raining down on both sides. Ino smirked up at the Otonin. How'd I all like me now, big boy? She turned to her teammate. Choji, it's your go. Choji nodded. Nakuden Sensha. His body rapidly expanded into its spherical form and began rolling furiously towards Jirobo. Now that's just sad, Jirobo sneered, shaking his head. He about to jump out of the way, until he noticed the exploding tags littering the area. Growling, he punched the ground. Doton, Darokuga Ishi. The earth lifted, forming a wall in front of him, and Choji crashed into it, dust flying everywhere. However, the barrier held strong, and the recoil sent Choji reeling to the ground. Ganjaki! Jirobo cried, punching the wall. Just as it was about to crush the downed Choji, it was suddenly reduced into rubble, courtesy of Lady Luck in a well-placed explosive note. But Jirobo had just begun to fight. He grabbed the still disorientated Choji, and kicked him up into the air. Hasho! He cried, hitting the Akimichi with a devastating palm strike that sent him flying into Ino. Jirobo loomed over the downed Konohinin, laughing darkly. Truly pitiable. Who gave you the authority to judge? Growled Ino, painfully picking herself up. Jirobo scoffed. As if I was referring to you. I was talking about your leader. You two aren't even worth being called ninja. Ino hissed, and whispered something to Choji, who nodded as he glowered at the Otonin. Leaving a pair of idiotic misfits against a clearly superior ninja, Jirobo went on, relishing on the Konohanin's angered expressions. I'm really insulted. Shut up. Choji burst out. Reaching into his coat, he brought out a small scroll and said of 3 pills, 1 green, 1 yellow, and 1 red. At that same moment, Ino lobbed another explosive towards Jirobo, to which he tauntingly dodged, only to have it detonate with a vivid flash, blinding him. When the Otonin's vision returned, Ino was nowhere to be seen, but a revitalized Choji stood before him, several kunai attached to his person by a pair of straps around his waist, their pointed edges sticking out at an odd angle. Nakuden Hari Sensha. Choji's body expanded once more, and rolled towards Jirobo in what was now a spiked version of the original Nakuden Sensha. Is that all you can do? Jirobo taunted, flipping through the hand signs for another wall of earth. But then he noticed that something was off. The Konohanin was moving faster. He growled and leapt to the side as Chuji tore past him, and came round again. After evading the attack thrice, Jirobo decided enough was enough. His cursed seal began to glow, and the black marks engulfed him completely, his form warping into that of an orange-skinned ogre in moments. "This ends now. Taken!" he cried, slamming his shoulder into the incoming Chuji. "Shogkisho!" Jirobo thrust his palm under Chuji's chin, catapulting him high into the air. But before Jirobo could proceed with the third move, a bomb detonated above his head, spilling a strange, jelly-like liquid all over him. "What the dash?" he began, brows wrinkling in confusion. "Katsu!" An explosive tag went off and the liquid ignited, sticking to his skin as it burned furiously. Searing pain engulfed him, and Jirobo dropped to the ground, desperately trying to extinguish the flames. Chuji mentally thanked Ino for the save. That was just much too close for comfort. It was time. He turned tail and fled. 2 pills were just not enough. He looked at his pocket, where last pill lay nestled within its recesses, and clenched his fists. The 3 Akimichi food pills, the pride and joy of his clan. 2 of the 3, he had already eaten spinach, which replenished the user's chakra store and healed his wounds, and curry, which he had hoped would finish the fight. But with the power-up his opponent had just taken, there was just no chance. Had Ino not been with him, he would have resorted to taking the chili pill by now, whatever the consequences. "Ino, whatever you had in mind, I hope it works." As soon as the fire had extinguished, Jirobo got up to finish off the Konohanin only to find them gone. But then he caught a trail of footprints and broken twigs leading down deeper into the forest. Not only were Konohanin cowards, but they were also very bad at running away. It was so easy that it was almost insulting. Grinning like a madman, he followed the destroyed path into the forest. "Here he comes," whispered Ino from amongst the bushes where she was hiding with Chuji. "Let's pray this works. Even the vultures will starve when I'm through with you," Jirobo promised, stomping down the path Chuji made. Blinded by rage, smoke, and the burning liquid, he was no longer paying attention to his surroundings, and that was when he stepped over a pile of cleverly concealed explosive tags. Katsu! The tags detonated with a devastating bang, and Jirobo was literally blown sky high, screaming. Ino looked up in disbelief. "He's still alive? After all that? Then I guess we have no other choice," Chuji muttered. He reached into his pocket and took out the last of his pills, a small, opaque, scarlet orb. Ino gasped. "Chuji, don't tell me you're gonna eat the dash." She blanched to a deathly white. The Akimichi chili pill was said to magnify its user's power by 100-fold, by converting all the user's fat into chakra. A powerful tool indeed, but it was in truth a double-edged sword. A very deadly double-edged sword. Chuji smiled ruefully. "I'm afraid it's our last hope." As he popped in the pill, its effect was almost immediate. Chakra shrouded over Chuji, forming a haze until it finally converged into a set of butterfly wings upon his back. Using the chakra boost as a lever of sorts, the now lean Chuji jumped into the air and caught Jirobo by the neck, propelling both boys higher as he did so. "Never, ever!" growled the Akimichi, biting down on each word as he leveled his iciest glare at the now terrified Jirobo. "Insult my friends." As he spoke, chakra began to flow towards his spare hand. Cocking his fist back, Chuji punched Jirobo with all his might. The force of the impact was so intense that the Otonin was literally driven 6 feet under. Chuji landed in front of the new crater, breathing heavily as he collapsed to his knees. The fight had taken a lot out of him, and the chili pill's deadly side was beginning to take effect. "Chuji!" cried a worried Ino, running up to the rapidly emancipating boy. "You're a mess. We have to get you to the hospital quick." "It's fine, Ino." "Really?" smiled the Akimichi, eyes slowly drifting shut. "I'm just gonna take a nap here. For a little while." Ino's eyes widened with alarm. "Chuji? Chuji! Don't you fall asleep on me. Chuji! Chuji!" Chapter 58, A Sticky Situation. Tenten cast a worried gaze towards Shikamaru. Was it really wise to leave Ino and Chuji against that behemoth? I have absolute faith in them, answered the Nara. On their own, Chuji and Ino may not look like much, but together, they would be a dynamic duo second only to an Inuzuka and his Ninken. Plus, with the information Hana supplied, we're relatively well prepared. But I'd still stay on my toes if I were you, Neji warned, entering the conversation. These guys are pretty strong, and based on my chakra readings, the fat one was probably the weakest of them all. Tenten snorted in an unladylike manner. Oh come on. You can't be dashed. She was cut off when Neji suddenly pushed her hard, only to have webbing pin him to a nearby tree. Neji! Hinata and Tenten cried, running to his aid, only to freeze up as their path was blocked by a giant spider. Another ambush? Naruto exclaimed. Beside him, Aomera growled, his fur bristling. You got that right, Captain Obvious, Kidomaru sneered, finally catching up with the Konohanin. Cause you know where you are? You're in the jungle, baby. You're gonna die. And that's the truth and I ain't gonna lie. So you caught one, Teiwa scoffed, landing beside the spidery boy. Big hoop. Now let me show you how it's really done. She pulled out her flute and played a few notes, summoning her Doki. Playing another short trill, she willed the ogres to attack Tenten, Hinata, and Neji. Oh no you don't! Yelled the blonde Inuzuka, making hand signs. Kage Bunshin Henjrenden. Both Naruto and Aomera vanished into a cloud of smoke, only to have several copies of both boy and dog lunge towards the Doki in counter-attack. Oh! Nice one, Teiwa, Kidomaru drawled. You really got M there. But this is how the game is played. Gumon and Keen. Spikes shot out from his body, only to be parried by a swarm of Kikai beetles. Yeah. Real smooth, the redhead retorted. She pursed her lips and started playing a tune in mezzo forte, increasing the power of the Doki's strikes. Kidomaru narrowed his eyes. Up to this point, I've just been playing around. Now the gloves are off. He turned to the giant spider below. Finish them. The giant spider reared and poised to attack, when suddenly, it screeched in pain as a Kage-Yuri shot out of nowhere and impaled it. It rounded onto the source of its pain, only to have a second Kage-Yuri ultimately dispel it. The spider's agonized throes snapped both girls out of their daze and they dashed off to free Neji. Tenten unsealed a Tonto and started hacking at Neji's bindings. However, hack as she might, the webbing still held fast. The dang thing won't cut. The weapon's mistress exclaimed, after bringing down the blade for the 5th time. Webs like it's made of steel or something. Up in the trees, Kidomaru flashed a cocky smirk towards Teiwa. 1 down, 5 points. Up yours, snarled the girl. Steel webs. Naruto thought as he, Aomeru, and their clones pushed back the Doki. That's got to be the Hinata. He called. Use your chakra to cut the webs. Understood. Coating her hands with a thin layer of chakra, Hinata swiftly cut through Neji's binds, the stuff giving way in a manner similar to a normal spider web. Kidomaru scowled. You Konoha punks are getting on my last nerve. First my spider, now my webs. It's time to take things into my own hands. All 6 of them. Why the F do I put up with this shit? Teiwa growled, rounding up on her teammate. Your stupid habits are wasting our time. Look who's talking. Kidomaru shot back. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't even be in this mess in the first place. Well, I think both of you just wasted more time, came a new voice. If you're so elite, why don't you do it yourself? Snapped Kidomaru, fed up with his teammate. Yeah, you hypocrite, Teiwa quipped, totally agreeing with the 6-armed boy. Seikon bit back a snarl as he glared at both Kidomaru and Teiwa. Don't worry, I will. You morons have already dallied too much with your ridiculous games and tough guy acts. As the Oto trio bickered amongst themselves, the Konohanin exchanged disbelieving glances with each other. After all that crap about infighting, and it all boils down to this. Naruto exclaimed in a harsh whisper. Without Teiwa controlling them, the Doki he had been fighting merely stood there in the sidelines. Now that's just plain troublesome, Shikamaru muttered. Let's move. Hell no. I'm killing those Konoha pests, and that's that. Teiwa declared. Kidomaru snorted. In your dreams, Toodles. This level's mine. For the love of God, let's just work the hell together. Seikon shouted, throwing his hands up in frustration. Fine. Screamed the other two. The dispute finally settled, the Oto trio were once again ready to eliminate the retrieval team. Only, there was no retrieval team to eliminate. Fuck. The swear word came out of Teiwa's lips in a low mutter. Seikon's normally pale features were crimson with fury. Now look what your incompetence has brought upon us. This is all your fault. I saw them go that way, said Kidomaru, trying to do some damage control. Cutting them off will be a piece of cake. Then do it, Teiwa snapped. Naruto shook his head. Unbelievable, Hana's team had to retreat from those morons. And to think I was nearly bested, Neji muttered. When you put it that way, it does sound kind of embarrassing, Tenten agreed in a dour tone. Neji hissed. This never happened. It just did, Shino piped up. Neji groaned in reply. This is probably the most troublesome mission I've ever been in, Shikamaru muttered. And it just got a whole lot worse, Kidomaru crowed, jumping out from the trees behind them. Did you really think you could escape the Oto 4? He shot a web towards the Konohanin, only to have it shredded by several Gyuken strikes from Neji. The rest of the retrieval team rushed in help, only to have the offer rejected. Go on without me. Neji commanded. The mission is too crucial for this. Neji-san. You can't. Hinata gasped. Hinata's right. Naruto declared. We need to stop splitting up. Neji's pale eyes narrowed, making him look more intimidating than ever. Naruto, Hinata, now is not the time or place to argue about this. Yeah, you need to catch up with Sasuke, Tenten spoke up. We'll deal with the Spider-Man wannabe. The Hyuga heir made a double take. We. Tenten winked and flashed the boy a guyish smile. Yes, we. Didn't think I'd let you have all the action to yourself. Sides, if this creep is tougher than Fatso back there, you'll need all the help you can get. Naruto frowned. I don't like it. You know my clan code, we leave no good man behind. I've already violated it once with Chuji and Ino, and I can't bear to do it again. And what about Sasuke, huh? Neji spat. You're just going to leave him there? He's in the darkness, Naruto, but there's still hope. You can bring him back into the light. We have to go, Naruto-kun, Hinata said defeatedly. I'm afraid Neji-san and Tenten has a point. We didn't come all this way for nothing. Flashback. It's not fair. Naruto cried, punching his pillow. What isn't fair? Tsame asked, taking a seat beside her adopted son. Tears leaked down the blonde's whiskered cheeks. Why did the old man have to die? It's not fair. He's not that weak to just give up to the Shinigami. Of course he isn't weak. Tsame roared. He wasn't called the god of shinobi for nothing. Looking at Naruto's subdued demeanor, the Inuzuka matriarch took a few calming breaths. Naruto, she explained, this time in a gentler tone. The Sandaime died protecting Konoha, his pack. When watching out for your pack, you have to give it your all, sometimes at the risk of your life. How does getting yourself killed make you stronger? Naruto asked, genuinely confused. Think about, pup, said his mother. Konoha's heroes have all been selfless men, willing to die for the village. Kakashi's father was one of the greatest ninja ever, but he willingly gave all that up and botched a mission for the safety of his teammates, eventually dying in disgrace. But even then, he had never regretted his actions. The Yondaime had a promising career before him, but he willingly gave that up just to protect the village from the Kyuubi. And there was your father. Her voice wavered. Which one? Naruto asked, wondering if Tsame meant his birth father or the Inuzuka patriarch had he survived. Both, Tsame replied. They willingly gave up their lives just so that their family could have the best things life could offer. All these people had hopes and dreams, friends, and goals, and that was what fueled their strength. End flashback. Fueled their strength. The blonde's words were whisper soft. There they are. I see 'em. Teiwaya called from the distance. Yip, yip, woof, erf. Trans, Naruto. They're coming straight for us. We have to go. Pronto. Aomera warned. The puppy's bark brought Naruto out of his trance, and reluctantly, he beckoned the rest of the team to move on. Shit, we just missed M. Teiwaya cursed. Nice going, dipstick. Stuff it, Red. Kidomaru retorted. Summon your doki, you twit. Seikon hollered. How about if you shut your yap and actually do something for once? Teiwaya fired back. Seikon's face lit up with a devious smirk. Oh, will you eat your words? Blah, 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 you're all talk all no walk, the redhead scoffed. Watch and learn, little girl, Seikon replied as he leapt in pursuit. I'll show you how I take out the trash. Not if I can help it. Tenten cried. Shuriken Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. However, before the star blades even got close to Quarry, they were blocked by several spikes. Ah! Said Kidomaru in a mocking tone. Your fights with me? Tenten smirked. Wouldn't have any other way. Tetsu no aim, trans, rain of steel. She leapt into the air and launched volley after volley of projectiles from kunai to shuriken to senbon needles, only to have them all caught by a web. Spunky, aren't you? Kidomaru said, jerking the web as the projectiles clattered harmlessly onto the forest floor. I like that in an opponent. Since I'm feeling a tad bit playful today, why don't we play a little game? 3 minutes of sudden death. Gumo Shibari. The web flew towards the Konoha duo only to be parried by a chitin from Neji. Behind him, Tenten quickly unsealed a 3-sectioned staff and twirled it, the parts connecting with an audible click. Kidomaru's expression was close to elated as he felt the thrill. Gumo Ninkin. He shouted, firing another barrage of spikes. But the Konohanin were a lot more skilled than he thought. Neji made a baseball slide, evading the spikes with ease, while Tenten used her staff as a lever and vaulted over them. The spidery boy scowled. Taijutsu specialists? Nonetheless, I'll make quick work of them. Besides, they can't hurt what they can't touch. Just then, Tenten flew into his vision, staff in hand. Reflexes kicking in, Kidomaru kicked her away, only to have her dig the staff down, using it as a pivot and kick him even harder. He flew back, only to be met with a Gyuken strike snapping into his back. You are now in my field of divination, said the Hyuga. Hakuhyakunijuyutsusho. The powerful barrage sent the Otonin crashing into the ground. As he picked himself up, Kidomaru suddenly doubled over, coughing up some blood. Good thing I had that armor boost. This really is one tough boss fight. Time to put the cheat code into play. Black marks raced across his skin and his complexion darkened. Neji winced. The enemy's chakra had intensified, the air choking with malice. With 4 more arms than a normal person, Kidomaru's speed with hand signs was unbelievable. At the last seal, he slammed down 2 of his hands, calling, Kuchi Yasei no Jutsu. The giant spider from before rose in a cloud of smoke before angrily charging towards Neji. Taking advantage of the situation, the Otonin fired another web at Tenten, sticking her to a tree. Tenten! Neji cried in alarm. He delivered a powerful strike against another tree, sending it teetering towards the spider. As the spider scurried away to safety, Neji ran towards Tenten to cut her free. Kidomaru smirked. They had fallen for it hook, line, and sinker. He gathered his chakra and launched a cloud of sharp, golden spikes towards them. However, he did not expect Neji to push Tenten out of the way and activate another chitin, blasting the spikes away from them. Kidomaru grit his teeth as he tried to think of another plan to eliminate his enemies. Just then, he noticed Neji panting. The Hyuga was running out of stamina. He grinned, knowing there was one way to slow the boy down. Perform the Omegamo. He commanded the spider. The spider did as it was told, and very soon, it had laid an extremely large egg sac. Using one of his spikes, Kidomaru cut the sac loose and split it open, releasing hundreds of rat-sized baby spiders. Neji quickly made another chitin, but there were just too many spiders. As the dome dissipated, he was gradually bogged down by the arachnids and their thread. Oh no you don't. Tenten shouted. Shuriken Bakusha. She spun hard and released a cloud of shuriken in all directions, killing each and every one of the spiders. And that's why they call me Tenten, she said upon landing. I never miss a mark. Kodomaru's expression grew maniacal as he formed a bow with his webs, a massive arrow going along with it. What a coincidence. So do I. A third eye opened on his forehead. Kumo Senkyu, Susaku. Accuracy, 90%. He aimed the arrow towards Tenten. Sidekicks first, then the boss. Sidekick. Tenten roared. I'll show you. Come on Neji, let's do this. Neji nodded, and both he and Tenten made a dash for the Otonin, each one going a different direction. Kidomaru slightly panicked at this. The Konohinin he was fighting was a lot more formidable than he thought, but that was because they knew how to collaborate. Well, might as well do this. As I said before, sidekicks first, then the boss. Taking a deep, calming breath, he refocused his aim at Tenten and fired. But the arrow never met its mark, for Neji had intervened, and took the hit, the missile impaling itself deep into his shoulder with a sickening squish. Neji! Tenten cried upon seeing her teammate fall. Her eyes blazed with righteous fury and she charged towards Kidomaru, picking up speed as she did. Kumo Senkyu, Susaku. Accuracy, 120%, the mutated boy stated, lining up his arrow with Tenten once more. But before he could even release his bow, the furious girl was already upon him. It's game over, you sick freak. Shoryuken. Like a hurricane, Tenten hit him with a series of rapid punches and arc-like kicks. Each strike was swift, true, and powerful, yet the style was noticeably different from that of Neji's or her teammate, Lee's. Every attack had her snapping out, hitting hard, and winding back with jagged rhythm. A spiraling uppercut sent Kidomaru flying, and that was all that Tenten needed. Tetsu no Ame. She leapt up once more and fired the projectiles. Moments later, Kidomaru hung lifelessly, pinned to a tree by the ninja darts. Several darts had made it home, hitting him in the vital areas. Neji! She cried as she ran up to the Hyuga and wrenched the arrow out of his shoulder. Are you alright? The pale-eyed boy grimaced as Tenten pulled the arrow out, blood spurting out of the hole. I have seen better days, but I'll be fine. It's just a flesh wound. Tenten pulled a hand to her heart. Oh, that's a relief. Without warning, she bashed Neji's head in. Ow! What was that for? Neji asked, rubbing his new lump. What was that for? Tenten screeched. That was for making me worry. You just took an arrow to your shoulder and you have the nerve to ask? Sometimes I think Lee deserves the genius title more than you do. Then her gaze softened. Why did you do that anyway? Neji smiled at her. That's because you're a part of my flock, and not even destiny can determine how I will protect it. Kabuto looked at the results grimly. I'm afraid we have to do the transfer now, Lord Orochimaru. However, the Snake Sunin was adamant. It has to be Sasuke Uchiha. Do you know how long have I waited for this opportunity? I understand, my lord, sympathized the bespectacled boy. But we have no other choice. Your body is decaying at a faster rate than previously assumed. Besides, we have plenty of bodies on hand. You can even use me. I will have no other than Sasuke Uchiha. Orochimaru screamed. But it's an emergency. Kabuto argued. The Sandaime's curse was stronger than expected. If you don't switch now, everything you've worked for will be for naught. Arg. Not to worry, assured the medic. The Oto 4 will be properly dealt with for their tardiness. For the meantime, I have readied the best we have on hand. Orochimaru looked at his withering form with distaste and fury. Curse you, Hiruzen Sarutobi. Oto's dungeon was not exactly a place one would want to visit, in fact it was probably the stuff of nightmares. It was filthy, it was dank, and was full of spiders, rats and many venomous worms. Nicknamed Hell's Gate, there was only one way in, and no way out. Every wretched soul who was imprisoned there was bound to spend the rest of his life in the last extremity of misery and despair. And maybe that was why everyone felt a swell of hope when Kabuto made his entry. "Listen up, you lot," Kabuto announced to the inmates gathered at the central quadrangle. "Lord Orochimaru has been feeling generous lately, and has decided to set one of you free." "And how would that be decided?" asked one. Kabuto's lips twitched ever so slightly. "It's very simple really. All you have to do is kill each other. Last one standing gets to go free. That will be all." Even before Kabuto had left the room, the bloody battle royale had already begun. Kabuto looked on as one of the two remaining figures on screen beheaded his opponent in one swift move. The winner stood there panting for a moment before turning his attention to the camera above. "Hey!" he shouted, jabbing his finger towards the lens. "Ya told me if I win, I'd be outta here. What are ya waiting for? Keep your promise and open the gate." There was a loud clang as the gate swung open, but before the surviving inmate could even make a break for it, the shadowy, foreboding figure of Orochimaru made his way in. "The heck is this?" yelled the man. "I thought we had a deal. Ya said I could go free." A greasy smile found its way on Orochimaru's lips. "You are going free, young Jinayamaru," he cajoled. "Free to become my new body." The last thing Kabuto saw and heard before shutting off the monitor were the agonized screams of Jinayamaru as the Snake Sunin began to take over his body. Chapter 59, Triple Threat. There was a solemn aura as the remnants of the search party made their way through the forest's dense undergrowth. From 8 ninja, their number had dwindled down to just 4. "How far are we from the target?" Shikamaru asked. "About 2 kilometers from us and still moving," answered Hinata, her Byakugan active. "I'd hate to sound like my mother," said the Nara with a disgruntled look. "But we have to pick up the pace. Time's running out." "You don't have to tell me twice," Naruto sniffed. "I'm just glad we lost those bozos." "Wrong," called a voice as dozens of kunai rained towards the Konohinin. "Here's Seikon." The team scattered, and the attack was nullified by a kaiten from Hinata. Naruto quickly drew his kodachi. "You guys really love popping up like daisies, don't ya? Well, enough is enough. It's time to pull out the weeds." He moved to attack, but Shino beat him to the punch. "This fight is mine," the bespectacled boy droned. "Go." Having had enough by now, Naruto took another step towards Shino, only to have a swarm of Kikai bugs form a blockade between the two boys. "Go," Shino repeated, not even looking back. "We are far too close to the goal to fail now." Swallowing the lump in his throat, Naruto could only give the Aburame a quick nod and motioned for the remnants of the retrieval team to continue their mission. Seikon's expression was maniacal as he charged towards the fleeing Konohinin. "You're not getting away that easily." But before he could even get close, a wall of Kikai swarmed before him. "What on earth?" Shino remained stoic as he looked at the two-headed boy, but his tone seemed to have caught an edge. "I don't like to repeat myself, so I'll say this one last time. You will be fighting me, and me alone." Just then, there was a chuckle as the flute-playing redhead from before dropped from the treetops and landed beside Seikon. Seeing the new enemy, Shino and his Kikai bugs instantly shifted to a defensive formation. "You really showed me there, shit," she said, still chuckling. "Shut up and take care of those Konoha scum, UF, Seikon growled. Yeah, said the redhead, leaping off after Team 7, while simultaneously flipping the bird at the two-headed boy. Focusing his attention at his opponent, an evil smile graced Seikon's lips. "You really picked a bad time to fight me, bug boy, 'cause I'm angry, and you won't like me when I'm angry." Kimimaro was making good progress towards the rice country border when he suddenly erupted into a violent fit of coughs. Because of his disease, Kabuto had advised him to rest and leave the mission to Seikon and the others. But the boy was adamant. So great was his desire to serve Orochimaru, he was willing to put his liege over his health. But now, inwardly cursing his ill luck, Kimimaro decided to stop for a bit of repose until he could continue his trek. After all, how could he serve his lord if he were to die now? As long as the Oto 4 were able to deter the Konohinin, a little rest stop could do him no harm. "The target has stopped moving," Hinata announced. Naruto pumped his fist. "All right. Now we're talking. Shikamaru sighed in relief. I'm just glad we can finally get this over with. I know what you mean, Naruto agreed with a thoughtful frown. Uchiha's antics are becoming a real thorn in the paw. Woof. Aomaru agreed. An urgent cry from Hinata cut the discussion short. Naruto! Shikamaru! Look out! Out of nowhere, a trio of ogres suddenly appeared before Team 7. Behind them, the flute-playing redhead dropped from the trees, blocking all possible routes of escape. You brats really gave me hell today, she growled. Allow me to return the favor. Naruto's hand automatically flew to his Kodachi handle. Like I said, he muttered bitterly. A real thorn in the paw. But before the blonde Inuzuka could even make his move, Shikamaru had already stepped forth to engage the creatures, and silenced the protesting Naruto with a quick, sharp look. He's your rival, and it's his fault your family was hurt, explained the Nara. I'll take care of this. And how you gonna do that? Jeered the redhead. Freeze em with your shadows? It won't be long till they break it and tear you to pieces. What a bother! Shikamaru grumbled. The redhead scowled at him. The hell are you blabbering about? Shikamaru simply looked at her, annoyed. Females. You, my mom, Anko-sensei. Although, to be fair, Anko-sensei did teach me some useful stuff. He made a few hand signs and bit his thumb, drawing blood as he completed the final sequence. Kuchi Yasei no Jutsu. Before the rest of the smoke even cleared away, a large snake snapped at the ogres, and before they even had time to react, the snake had swallowed each and every one of them. All clear, Shikamaru announced. Now get going. Hinata and the Inuzuka duo, however, looked hesitant, but Shikamaru's snake whipped its head towards them, flashing its fangs. The message it sent was more than enough to send them running. Shikamaru smirked. Maybe hanging out with troublesome women had its benefits. But then, a malevolent snicker snapped him back to reality. Your snake ate my doki. Laughed the redhead. Now that's rich. You can't kill them. Nothing can kill them. Shikamaru's brows furrowed. The Kuchi Yasei was one of the most powerful jutsu in his arsenal, a real chakra eater. If the girl before him had something that could stop the snake, he would be in real trouble. Recovering from her jovial bout, the redhead began to play a few short notes before moving to a full tune, the melody, odd and haunting. There was a gush of blood as each of the doki tore a hole through the snake. Inwardly cursing, Shikamaru immediately dispelled it. That one failed move had cost him a sixth of his chakra, not to mention, his summon was horribly wounded. For a moment, he pondered on how long it would take for the snake to heal until he realized he had to survive this troublesome wench and her equally infuriating lackeys. Fully refreshed, Kaminero was just about to leave when he sensed a trio of chakra signatures. His eyes narrowed in disgust and annoyance. I should have known Seikon and the others would botch the job. His eyes trailed towards the sealed barrel. Good help is just so hard to find these days. Hinata's voice was barely above a whisper. Do you think Shikamaru will be alright? He'd better be, Naruto replied in an uncharacteristically quiet tone. He's the smartest guy I know. He'd have sense enough to stay out of danger. Erf. Aomaru agreed heartily. The dual assurance somewhat mollified Hinata, and with renewed determination, they continued their search. Silently, they walked on, and soon the light began breaking through the canopy as they neared the forest's edge. A tract of prairie could be seen peeking beyond the tree trunks, as well as the object of their search, a large barrel that contained the wayward Sasuke Uchiha, and the owner of the aforementioned sixth chakra signature, a tall, willowy boy with white hair split by a zigzag parting. Hinata observed the boy with her Byakugan. He's asleep. Naruto drew his Kodachi. The easier it is to kill him then. I don't really want to do this, but if he's with those Oto creeps, I'm not taking any chances. He quietly made his way towards the boy, but the moment he took his first step, several sharp fragments came hurtling towards him. Putting the Inuzuka agility to good use, Naruto leapt sideways, avoiding the attack. When he looked back, the boy was gone. What the dash? Asked the puzzled blonde. Naruto, look out! Hinata called. The Inuzuka turned around just in time to block another set of projectiles with his Kodachi. And there, standing before him, was that same white-haired boy who had been asleep just a few seconds ago. "I must admit, you are fairly skilled for Konohanain," said the boy. "But in my book, all Konohanain are considered trash. Who are you to judge?" Naruto snarled. Behind him, Aomaru growled and bared his teeth. "Me," drawled the boy. "I am Kimimaro Kaguya, your gateway to the Shinigami." In another part of the forest, 3 figures were jumping from tree to tree Sunanin, judging by the insignias on their forehead protectors. Leading the group was a grim-faced boy with spiky red hair and the kanji for love tattooed on the left side of his forehead. Flanking to his left, was another boy, roughly about the same age as the redhead. He sported purple face paint and had brown hair, tufts of which peeked from underneath a beanie with peaked ends. From the slight resemblance between the first and second boy, it was clear that they were obviously brothers, maybe twins even. But still, there were marked differences between the two. The redhead was more of the serious type, whereas his brother had a more lax demeanor. Completing the trio was the female of the group, a teenaged blonde with her hair done in 4 ponytails. The brunette turned to the blonde. "Hey Tamari, did you see the look on that guy's face when he found out it was Karasu? I could have sworn he crapped his pants." He guffawed. "Hoo boy, that would be a good one for the picture album." "Now that's just crude," said the girl called Tamari in a disgusted tone. "Why can't you be more cultured?" "What, you mean like your pineapple-haired boyfriend?" the brunette replied cheekily. "I don't see how looking at clouds and playing shogi counts as culture. I swear the guy's just about as fun as old man Ebizo." "He's not my boyfriend." Tamari huffed irritably. "And at least his hobbies are respectable, compared to yours. Puppets. Face paint. And that cat hat? You look like some nutcase from the loony bin." "You know I need Karasu and Kurouri to fight," defended the brunette. "And the ladies dig the face paint. Point being that blonde Inuzuka kid. You've seen how that Hyuga girl looks at him. And your hat?" Tamari asked, eyebrow raised. "Girls love a sensitive guy, Inuzuka being the prime example again," the brunette explained. "You see that puppy he's with? If girls like a guy who likes dogs, imagine how they would take to a guy who likes cats." Tamari gave her teammate a strange look. "Kankuro, have you ever suffered a serious head injury?" "Gee, I dunno," said the boy named Kankuro, rubbing his chin. "Does being repeatedly whacked by your giant fan count?" If looks could kill, the glare Tamari was directing towards Kankuro was potent enough to wipe out an entire village. "Shut up, Kankuro. Or I'll shut you up myself," she threatened, her hand already moving towards her battle fan. "Gaara, help me!" Kankuro cried, ducking for his twin. The redhead's reply was short, straight, and simple. "No." "Why not?" "Because I'm not stupid," Gaara replied. "You brought this upon yourself. Now man up and face the consequence of your actions." Kankuro frowned. "It's times like these that I miss the old psycho you." At least he could keep Tamari at bay. The second he uttered those words, Gaara suddenly doubled over, clutching his head. "Gaara!" Tamari cried, rushing over to help the downed redhead. I sense blood," Gaara uttered, his eyes wild. Upon looking at Gaara's expression, Tamari immediately froze in her tracks. "Gee Gaara?" she asked tentatively as she took a step back. If the old Gaara was back, it was only a matter of seconds before things got messy. Meanwhile, Kankuro was spouting a stream apologies. "I didn't mean it," he blubbered. "I was just kidding, I swear." For a moment, the outlook was grim, until the look in Gaara's eyes seemed to subside. Then sand began to rise from his skin, before forming into a pair of eyes. Gaara placed a finger over each of his own eyes, and the sand constructs quickly floated away into the distance. There was a tense silence. Neither Kankuro nor Tamari had any idea as to what was going on with Gaara right then, they simply stood there, observing their brother with apprehensive eyes. Suddenly, Gaara's eyes snapped open and he broke into a run. "Follow me," he commanded. "Why?" asked Tamari, confused with the redhead's peculiar behavior. "The Konohanain are in trouble," Gaara stated. As their allies, we must help them. The answer practically shook both Temari and Kankuro out of their bearings. How much of an impact had been made on their youngest sibling? I'd have to say, that Naruto Inuzuka is definitely a miracle worker, Kankuro whispered in a low aside as he trailed after Gaara. Temari nodded. For once, I agree. Chapter 60, The Cavalry Arrives. Except for a slight breeze, all was still as Kimimaro faced Naruto and Aomaru. Already, the blonde had taken a more feral appearance, and the Ninken stood his ground, steadfast. Hinata stood beside them, her stance defensive. What business do you Otonin have with Sasuke Uchiha? Naruto demanded. As if invading our village and killing our Kage wasn't enough. There was a slight pause until Kimimaro decided to answer. Since you're going to die anyway, I might as well tell you. Lord Orochimaru is embarking on a quest to obtain all the jutsu in the world, but time and nature are not exactly on his side. Lord Orochimaru is now in his middle years, and throughout that time, he has amassed but a fraction of the world's jutsu. There are still more out there, waiting to be collected. Fortunately, continued the white-haired boy. Lord Orochimaru has devised a jutsu that grants him immortality. And how does Sasuke fit in all of this? Naruto asked. 'Tis not physical immortality I refer to, but a spiritual one, said Kimimaro. For death shall only be vanquished in victory. Lord Orochimaru must replace his body with a newer and stronger one before his current body succumbs. At the Kaguya's words, Hinata gasped. You don't mean dash? Yes. Kimimaro confirmed, a mad glimmer in his eyes. Sasuke Uchiha is to be Lord Orochimaru's next body. Not in this life, pal. Naruto snarled. Kage Bunshin Henjrenden. Jujin Bunshin no Jutsu. There was a cloud of smoke, and Kimimaro found himself surrounded by an army of growling blondes, some clutching a kodachi, others with their hands curled into claws. Now let's dance. They chorused before charging towards the white-haired boy. Gladly, Kimimaro replied, spreading his hands as blades sprouted out of his palms, much to the horror and disgust of both Konohinin. Yanagi no Mai, trans, Dance of the Willows. Seikon scowled. Overconfident punk. He muttered, lunging for Shino. But the Aburame had anticipated his move and dropped backwards, landing on another branch. You ain't getting away that easy. Shouted the two-headed boy. Tanrenken. He caught Shino in a barrage of rapid punches, but upon the fourth punch, his hand sank in, encased in what appeared to be a mass of Kikai beetles. Seikon tried to pull away, but was held fast. Kyujigan, trans, destruction sphere, dot. A glowing point of chakra formed within Shino's hand, before being swarmed over by the Kikai. Before Seikon even had time to react, Shino had released him and jumped back, firing the orb towards the Otonin as he did so. There was a blinding flash, as the chakra bug ball exploded on impact, pushing Seikon backwards. And just when he thought it was all over, he felt a drop in his chakra levels. Looking down, Seikon discovered to his horror that there were several Kikai crawling over him. Growling, he swatted them away and crushed them under his foot. Shino took a deep breath. The jutsu he had used was powerful, but its chakra use was heavy, and it regularly killed most of the bugs used. It was not something he could do on a regular basis, at least at his level. And that technique the enemy used. Extra arms just popping out of the blue? That definitely defied logic, an occurrence that Shino never liked. Tanrenkyaku. Seikon came flying from above, delivering a series of vicious kicks towards Shino, only to find the Konohanin's body dissolve into a mass of bugs that quickly encompassed him, draining his chakra as they did so. That's it. Seikon growled under his breath. Yukon. The object behind the pale boy moved, revealing a second head with features almost identical to Seikon, and strange, black markings creeping along the skin that linked the two heads. This in turn was followed by a jolt of dark chakra, instantly killing most of the Kikai nearby. Hidden amongst the leaves, Shino was barely keeping his composure. The battle was not going as well as he hoped it would. And that dark chakra? Was that the cursed seal that they all had been warned of? At least after the initial burst, There had been no further casualties among the surviving Kikai. Reaching into his equipment pouch, Shino drew out a small rod. Gripping it tightly, he channeled some chakra through it. Kikai-K, trans, Kikai whip. He murmured. More bugs crawled towards Shino's hand until they had formed a long whip whose entire length was composed of nothing but Kikai beetles. In true ninja fashion, he lashed the weapon towards the twins, who both dodged in turn. Will you look at that? Seikon sneered. More techniques. Is that so? Said Yukon with a slight laugh. Then I say let's kick this into high gear. With great force, the twins leapt off their perch, and lunged towards Shino, snapping the branch in the process. Despite being surrounded by the Doki, Shikamaru remained unfazed. Teiwa sneered at the ponytailed shinobi before her. You really are an idiot. Your team has been whittled down to a stump, and you're still willing to fight. Instead of giving in to the insult, Shikamaru merely held his tongue. Pray tell, Teiwa asked in a patronizing tone. Is that Uchiha really that important to you? Still no reaction from the Nara. Barking laughter poured out of the redhead's lips. I thought so. Wasting an entire team for just one guy. You Konohanin are nothing but a bunch of schmucks. A light chuckle from Shikamaru instantly shut Teiwa up. That may be so. But then again, this is my first time being a team leader, so you can't really blame me. Rule of thumb dictates that one wayward comrade is not worth losing a team of loyal ninja, continued the Nara. But what? Teiwa asked, baffled. The real world doesn't always follow the rule of thumb, Shikamaru explained. Loyalty means nothing unless it has at its heart the absolute principle of self-sacrifice. Although everyone was aware of the risks involved, not of a single one of us would ever turn his back on a comrade in trouble. Myself included. I may be a lazy bum. And I'd rather watch clouds than lead a team. But if there's one thing I know, it's that even a pawn can take a king. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Ga. Arg. Aie. There was a puff of smoke as Naruto and his beast clone were thrown back by Kimimura's attack. Of the 98 Naruto Kage Bunshins, none were left standing. The Kaguya eyed the Inuzuka duo with pure disdain. Tisk. Truly pathetic. Naruto's eyes flashed red. Oh yeah? Try this on for size. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. 3 more clones appeared before him. Persistent I see. Kimimaro noted dryly. Commendable, but that won't help you. The bone blades retreated back into his palms, and he moved to unzip his shirt, revealing his shoulder. There was a wet, squishy noise as the skin on his shoulder began to separate, and a section of his humerus rose up, just enough for him to grasp it and extract it completely. Naruto smirked. A bone sword, huh? Now the playing fields are even. Mizukai no Mai. A weak attempt at swordplay, Kimimaro scoffed, his stance shifting notably. This is Kanjuta Sutsubeki no Mai, trans, dance of the camellia. There was a whirl of dust as the combatants charged with unbelievable speed and began to clash swords with each other. Kimimaro, with his graceful, elegant strikes, and Naruto, with his quick, direct swings. Not to mention that the clones, Beast and Shadow, did their best to push the Kaguya off balance. However, blessed with experience, Kimimaro easily held out against Naruto, and was able to draw first blood. Naruto sucked in a pained hiss as he clutched his now injured arm. The enemy was too good, but an Inuzuka never gave up. The fight only had 2 outcomes, either the blonde won, or he died trying. Kikain-ge, trans, Kikai dome, dot. The moment the Otonin had leapt off the branch, beetles forming the Kikai-K dispersed, and joined with the rest of Shino's bugs to form a small but protective barrier around the Aburame. The result was inevitable. Not only was the twins' momentum drained, but their chakra as well. Damn it, Yukon snarled. We need to finish this. And fast. You took the words right out of my mouth, Seikon agreed. There was another flare of dark chakra, and what was once one body split into 2. But that was not all. As the twins separated, their skin gained a deep ochre tint, and what was once a human face was twisted into that of a one-horned demon. Black flesh, like solid ash, formed upon the other half of each body. Kyujigan. As the insects before him cleared, Shino spread his hands at shoulder width. A sphere of insects far larger than before formed in front of him, buzzing as he hurled it at the enemy. Fuck you, Khan cursed. Thinking quickly, he began forming a set of hand signs. Looking at his brother, Seikon quickly followed suit. Before Shino's attack could make full contact, they struck the ground and cried out, Kuchi Yase, Rashoman. A massive gate burst out of nowhere, taking the attack full force. As the ensuing cloud of smoke cleared away, there was a slight dent on the gate, an amazing feat indeed. Shino dropped to his knees, panting. His chakra levels were nearing rock bottom, and 60% of his Kikai lay dead or injured. But despite the predicament he was in, the Aburame remained as stone-faced as ever. Just then, there was a shadow as Yukon loomed over Shino. Fighting till the very end, I see. Crooned the Otonin. Allow me to help you. He grabbed the bespectacled boy and merged with him bit by bit, until only his head remained sticking out of Shino's shoulder. Help you hasten your death, that is. He finished with a mad cackle. I doubt it, said Shino with the utmost calm. As part of my body, you are entitled to its pros and cons. Pro, you now have a symbiotic relationship with the chakra-eating Kikai beetles. Con, you now have to offer your chakra to the beetles. And since you are now a part of me, I offer all of your chakra to my remaining beetles. At the Aburame's words, Yukon's eyes widened. But it was too late. The remaining Kikai immediately drained his chakra, and with a squelching noise, his body separated from Shino's in a crumpled, lifeless heap. Yukon! Ukon! Seikon cried. But there was no response from the fallen twin. Rage consumed him. You filthy Konoha trash! You killed my brother! He rushed towards the Aburame with all intent to kill. Die! But before the pale boy could even reach his target, there was a clacking sound as something wooden swooped down from the trees. Before Seikon even knew what hit him, he found himself thrown into a large, barrel-shaped device. Then there was a glint of metal as several sharp blades, each piece connected to the parts of a familiar puppet, came veering for the barrel. Witnessing the scene, Shino could only think of one person capable of such a feat. Kurosari Enjiki? Someone called. Let me out. Seikon screamed from inside the barrel as he viciously pounded at the wooden walls. Let me out. Kurohiji, Kiki Apatsu! Shouted the mystery person. A chilling scream rang out from inside the barrel as the blades entered the slots with a sickening squish. Blood trickled out of the slots, and all was silent. Hasta la vista, baby. From the trees, a brunette clad all in black landed right between Shino and the bloody puppet. He flashed a cocky grin and a victory sign towards the Aburame. And that's how we deal with plucky upstarts in Suna. Kagamain, success, Shikamaru said, fairly proud of his handiwork. Coinciding with his clones, the Nara was able to ensnare Teiwa and all three Doki. But then, the Doki suddenly disappeared, throwing Shikamaru and his clones off balance. Teiwa smirked wickedly as black marks raced from the seal on her neck to the rest of her body. You're pretty sharp. But I'm sharper. Playing another set of notes, she resummoned the Doki, who made quick work of the shadow clones. She smiled predatorily at the original Shikamaru. And then there was one. Damn, she's keen, thought the Nara. Definitely a tough game to beat. Whatcha gonna do now, huh? Teiwa goaded. Without your so-called pawns, you're nothing. As she played another melody, the Doki charged towards Shikamaru. Kageyuri no Jutsu. Shadows erupted from underneath the Nara and impaled each and every one of the Doki, dispelling them. What did you do? Screamed the redhead. Shikamaru yawned. Nothing. Just used my head as any self-respecting human being would. Teiwa chuckled. Wise guy, eh? Let's see how wise you are to this. There was another upsurge of dark chakra and the redhead's appearance transformed from that of a fairly pretty girl to that of a horned monster. If you're trying to psych me out, you're doing a bad job, Shikamaru commented, looking indifferent. I deal with scarier people in my own house every day. Teiwa scowled. If there's one thing I hate, it's mouthy little punks like you. She raised her flute to her lips. Mateki, shi no kaukyu dash, but then, upon seeing a small snake coiled daintily around the tip of the flute, she stopped cold and let out an ear-splitting shriek, dropping the instrument in the process. You! She roared. Shikamaru chuckled nostalgically. The old creepy-crawly trick. Works on troublesome shrews every time. There was a guttural scream as Teiwa blindly charged for the Nara. You want troublesome? I'll give you troublesome. Shikamaru smirked. Check. As soon as the redhead was in range, he made his move. Kuchi Yase no Jutsu. There was a puff of smoke, and Teiwa soon found herself constricted by a medium-sized snake. The hell is this? She sputtered. An ironic ending for you, the Nara commented, remembering an article he once read in an ecology book. In some parts of the world, the shrew is the usual prey for the snake. Go fuck yourself, Teiwa spat, trying to wriggle out of the snake's crushing hold. Cursed seal or none, I wouldn't do that if I were you, Shikamaru advised as he approached the trapped redhead, a kunai in his hand. You'd better accept the fact that you lost. Never. Teiwa snarled as she struggled harder. She's resisting too much, said the snake. I can't bind her well. Can't you inject her with poison or something? Shikamaru asked. I'm a constrictor, not a viper. Retorted the snake. I'm doing the best I dash, but the snake never finished its sentence. Teiwa managed to break free of its hold and dispel it. You're all out of options. You're a dead duck now. She crowed, lunging towards the shell-shocked Shikamaru. Die. Really now? I'd beg to differ, said a new voice as a powerful whirlwind caught Teiwa, throwing her upwards. There was a loud thud as someone carrying something heavy landed on the branch. Upon seeing who it was, Shikamaru's eyes widened. For standing before him was none other than Sabaku no Tamari. Naruto's Kodachi made contact with Kimimiro's bone armor with a resounding clang. The battle had been raging for several minutes now, with neither side giving in. Naruto grimaced. Even with all the clone combos, not a single hit. No way I can beat the guy like this. I'll take it from here, Hinata spoke all of a sudden, her Byakugan blazing. Are you crazy? Yelled the blonde. This guy is dangerous. You're no match for him. Heck, I can barely keep up with him. Suddenly, Kimimaro appeared before the Hyuga. Not even false courage can help you now, scum. Now die. Yanagi no Mai. Shigohaku Rokya Juyansho, trans, protection of the 8 trigrams and 64 palms. Despite his best effort, Kimimaro could not break through Hinata's defensive barrier. To add salt to the wound, not only was Hinata's move defensive, it was also an attack-based one. As the jutsu died down, Kimimaro had dropped to a knee, coughing up blood. Naruto, Aomeru, now's your chance. Shouted the Hyuga. Right. Said the Inuzuka. Jujin Bunshin Renden. I. He delivered a powerful haymaker at the Kaguya. New. Kimimaro was hit in the gut. Ziu. A roundhouse kick sent the white-haired boy reeling. Ka. Naruto and Aomeru double-teamed and hit Kimimaro with devastating double uppercut, sending the Otonin airborne. But it was not yet over. A Getsuiga from the Inuzuka duo served as the coup de grace. Suddenly, there was a crackle, as the seals on top of the barrel containing Sasuke began to break, followed by the container shattering into 1,000 pieces, and emerging from the ensuing dust cloud was Sasuke Uchiha himself. Hinata sighed in relief. Oh, thank goodness. Naruto took a step towards the raven. Oi Uchiha, glad to see that you're in one piece. Now get your butt in gear, so we can hightail it out of here. Haha. Upon hearing the sound, Naruto froze in his tracks. Nearby, Aomeru whimpered. Uchiha. He called rather gingerly. Ha 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 ha. Ah ha 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 ha. Cackled the Uchiha, in what could be considered as a grotesque parody of laughter. Damn it Uchiha, listen to me. Naruto shouted urgently. But Naruto's words fell on deaf ears. Instead of joining his comrades, Sasuke dashed further off into another copse of trees. Naruto stared disbelievingly at the direction to which the Uchiha had disappeared to. Victory had been at a hair's breadth, and now another obstacle. Motioning for Aomeru and Hinata to follow him, he moved to go after the Uchiha, when a volley of bone shards shot past him. "He's still standing after all that!" exclaimed the blonde. "Naruto, you and Aomeru go after Sasuke!" Hinata cried. "I'll deal with the enemy." "No!" the Inuzuka cried with much vehemence. "No more! I can't risk any more lives. I dash." "Naruto, listen to me. You always told me that you'd never give up no matter the odds, and that's what I am planning to do," Hinata said with absolute firmness. "We are your pack, but so is Sasuke. I can't just leave you alone," countered the blonde. "She won't be alone," assured a new voice. "For I will be helping her." The ninja present looked up to see a familiar redhead step into view. You are?" Kimimaro hissed. "Sasabaku no Gaara." Hinata gasped. "Glad to see that you all remember me," said the stolid boy. "Especially you, Kimimaro Kaguya. For I have a bone to pick with you." "Huh," Kimimaro scoffed. "Only a worthless shinobi like you could make jokes in situation like this." "Jokes?" Gaara raised a brow. "Who said anything about jokes?" Chapter 61, Sword and Shield. Gaara's words echoed through both Naruto and Hinata. While the Hyuga had physically recovered from her injuries, her harrowing encounter with the Ichiba's Jinchuriki had given her a less than stellar impression of him. Wary Byakugan eyes shifted towards the redhead. "You have nothing to fear," Gaara assured, sensing the Konohanins' mutual unease. "I am not the same person that I once was." Despite the redhead's now sane and calm demeanor, Hinata still flinched back. The only thing steadying her was Naruto's gentle yet firm hand on her arm. "I appreciate your concern, Sabaku," said the Inuzuka. "But I know that we are not on the best of terms, Inuzuka, but we can be," Gaara replied. "And that's why I want to prove it to you and your village. That my people and I can be worthy enough to be called friend. Why?" Naruto asked. "What do you expect to gain from all of this?" Teal eyes locked with blue. "You helped me and my family, Inuzuka. It is only fair that I return the favor." Gaara. All of a sudden, sand burst out of Gaara's gourd, catching a volley of bone bullets. As the protective wall dispersed, the bones fell to the ground with a clacking sound. Kimimaro was at a loss for words. You saved them." Gaara finished. "You got that in one." He turned to Naruto. "Do what you have to do, but leave Kaguya to Hyuga and I." "But I can't just leave Hinata behind," the blonde rebutted. "I would never abandon your pack." "I know." Hinata cut in. "But Sasuke. Sasuke is a part of your pack too. It's up to you to bring him back." "But that incident Naruto pushed on. "You We'll just have to face my fears," said the Hyuga with as much courage as she could muster. She smiled at him. "Bring back that lost sheep, Naruto-kun." "Go after Uchiha, Inuzuka," Gaara interjected. "You need not worry about Hyuga's safety. She is in good hands." Looking at the determined faces of his companions, the ghost of a smile graced Naruto's lips. "I'll take your word for it," he finally spoke with regained confidence. "Come on, Aomeru. Onward." The dog barked once, and set to tracing the Uchiha's scent at top speed, with Naruto tailing him with equal vigor. Within moments, the Inuzuka duo had disappeared over the horizon. Kimimiro's gaze rested on Hinata and Gaara in an appraising manner, whereas his opponents stayed on their toes. After a few tense moments, the battle resumed. Teiwa ogled at the blonde before her. Well, if it isn't Sabaku no Tamari working for the enemy. You Suna guys really are fickle. Is that a fact? Said Tamari, still as confident as ever. From what I recall, we were simply acting on orders. Same reason as to why I'm here. Still facing Teiwa, her attention shifted to Shikamaru. Hey egghead, when did you turn into such a sissy? Shikamaru's shocked expression quickly turned into an annoyed one, but he did not respond to Tamari's jibe. If you're just gonna run home crying to mommy, the blonde continued. I'll just have to take matters to my own hands. Negatory, Shikamaru replied. If there's one thing I can't stand, it's being saved by the bell. Temari laughed. Still going on about me man, you woman, crap, huh? You're a regular charmer, Aaron Shaw. She laughed again. But liquid courage won't help you here. You got that right. Teiwaya spoke up. There won't even be bones left when I'm through with you. Be careful, Shikamaru warned as Teiwaya readied another set of notes. She controls illusions through the sound of her flute. Temari nodded. 10 for that. She hefted her fan and swung it with all her might. Dekame Tachi no Jutsu. A powerful gust tore through the illusion, and veered towards the source itself. Although Teiwaya managed to evade the attack, her flute did not fare as well. Shikamaru was thunderstruck. The proverbial sword and shield. He said to himself. Her jutsu allows her to attack and defend at the same time. Now that is something that could really come in handy. Behind the cover of a large tree, Teiwaya snuck a glance at Shikamaru and Temari, and glowered at her broken flute. Those damn brats. If it's hell they want, it's hell they'll get. All was normal until the Hokage's office door was kicked open with a deafening slam, and a less than pleased Tsame Inuzuka stormed in, flanked by the equally upset Kuromaru. A harried Shizune followed after them. Have you gone senile? Tsame roared. After what happened to those Fortunin, you sent 8 rookies on that exact same mission. Tsunade immediately stood up. Who are you to call me senile, you brat? She retorted. Konoha is as short-handed as it is. There is a severe lack of jonin and umbu, and a bare minimum of chunin. Those injured ninja were our only available combat chunin. What choice did I have? Despite the dangerous tone in Tsunade's voice, the Inuzuka matriarch refused to back down. How about letting that Uchiha brat go? She snarled. You people sure didn't have any qualms about it when his brother went AWOL. This isn't a joke, Tsame. The Hokage shouted, slamming her palms on her desk, shattering it in the process. Sasuke Uchiha's situation is more dangerous than you think. If Orochimaru manages to acquire his body. She trailed off, shuddering. Well then, I guess that's my cue, Tsame replied with unnatural calm as she turned on her heel and made her exit. You can't just up and leave. Tsunade announced. Your next mission has already been decided. Send some other chump to deal with it. Tsame shouted back as she left the room. I have a bigger bone to bury. Tsunade gaped at Tsame's retreating form, wincing as her office door was shut with another thundering slam. The Inuzuka matriarch was about to leave the village, when she heard a pair of voices calling out to her. She turned to see Kurenai Yuhi and Kakashi Hatake running towards her at breakneck speed. Lady Tsame. Kurenai hollered. You can't just go about disobeying orders dash. So I take it you're going to try and stop me, huh, muttered the older woman, shifting into an Inuzuka taijutsu stance. Well, this is gonna hurt me more than it'll hurt dash. Without us, finished the genjutsu mistress. Tsame did a double take. Say what? Kakashi stepped in to explain. Well, you see. Being Miss Kurenai's charge, Sasuke is considered as her responsibility, and his abduction has dealt her quite a blow. And you're here because... The Kopinen's eye crinkled into an arc. Given the principle of chivalry, I can't just leave you two ladies to the mercy of whatever is out there, now can I? Kurenai rolled her eyes at Kakashi's statement, while Tsame kept silent, knowing the Kopinen's true reason for his appearance. Instead, she turned to Kuromaru, gesturing him to begin tracking her son's scent. Kakashi followed suit, after summoning his Ninken squad. Within moments, all 9 dogs were hot on the trail of Naruto and Sasuke. Ha! Hinata charged through the opening and struck Kimimaro on the chest, but a spike of bone sprouted out and stabbed her hand, the moment she made impact. Biting back a cry, she dodged a second hit and retreated to a safer distance. Blank green eyes met pale ones. The first time you hit me was a lucky shot. A weakling such as yourself would never have a second opportunity. The Kaguya leapt into the air and fired another volley of bullets at Hinata, until a wave of sand flew past and intercepted the attack for the second time. Kimimaro fired volley after volley, but each time, Gaara's sand caught them all. Gaara looked at the Hyuga's wound with cool regard. You were too hasty. When you fought against me before, your moves had a bit more edge. Hinata smiled at him wryly. I hope you do not take offense, but that little escapade did result a few troublesome situations. I see. Said the redhead, his gaze shifting back to Kimimaro. My sincerest apologies. You have every right to dash. Hinata smiled at him again, this time a bit more sincerely. There's no need to apologize. Despite all this, I do not hold a grudge against you. It was my own presumptions that led me to my predicament. Let bygones be bygones, agreed. Agreed. Despite his best efforts, Kimimaro was having a hard time dodging the sand sweeping towards him. A sand tendril eventually caught him in midair and flung him back, but not before the white-haired boy conducted his own counter-attack. But just like before, Gaara's sand rose to shield him from the bone bullets. He can attack and defend with that sand of his, Kimimaro noted. But proof of its weight tells me that the amount of sand he has is no more than the amount his gourd holds. You fool, he scoffed. Without your sand, you are nothing. Suna Shiger. The remaining sand from Gaara's gourd split into separate clumps and veered towards the Kaguya. Tisk, Kimimaro muttered, preparing to evade the attack. How boring. But before he could even take a step, sand suddenly rose from the ground and encased his legs. But I happen to have sand, Gaara stated plainly. And I can create more from the ground, which basically means I have an endless supply. So he could convert rocks into extra sand, Hinata observed. Sabaku no Gaara, you really are of a different metal. There was a loud patter as the clumps of sand piled over Kimimaro. And based on her experience, Hinata knew exactly what was going to come next. Sabaku Sausa. Blood spewed over as the sand around Kimimaro compressed, crushing him. But just when the battle had been concluded, a hand suddenly shot out of the sand, followed by the rest of Kimimaro, his bones exposed. Those bones. Hinata whispered. He's on a level of his own. I'll say, Gaara agreed. If it wasn't for my bone armor, I would have been crushed, Kimimaro admitted. I definitely underestimated you. Well, you should see this, Gaara quipped, making a hand seal. It'll be the last thing you see. Ryusa Bakuryu. A massive wave of sand burst from the ground and engulfed the Kaguya, but Gaara was not yet done. He knelt down and touched the sand, shouting, Sabaku Taiso. The sand compressed with a thunderous rumble. It was unbelievable. Hinata exclaimed. He's still alive. What a pain, Gaara muttered, looking at what seemed to be a tail rise from beneath the sand. Temari clicked her tongue in displeasure. Tisk. How typical of an Otonin, she scoffed. When the going gets tough, they get going. The other way, that is. What a coward. She's not, Shikamaru spoke up, looking at the trees surrounding them. Unlike the status quo of Otonin, this one's actually dangerous. Elaborate. The enemy's modus is our typical, long-distance genjutsu, the Nara explained. Using her flute, she'll first trap her opponents in an illusion. Then she'll use her illusion as the opening to inflict physical damage. As we all know, genjutsu focuses on distorting the five senses: sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch, Shikamaru continued. Out of these attacks, the genjutsu dealing with hearing is the worst. And to add salt to our wounds, the terrain isn't gonna do us any good either. A forest canopy is the perfect playground for such a genjutsu user. All our enemy has to do is stand back and stay invisible, striking like a thief in the night. By the time we use flute's sound to trace her exact location, we'd already be trapped in her genjutsu. Bottom line, the enemy has the advantage. He grimaced. Man, that stinks. Look, Temari barked. I asked for the status of the situation, not the story of your life. She bit her thumb and spread the blood across her fan. Kuchi yase, kiri kiri no mai. There was a gust of wind as a weasel brandishing a massive sickle popped before the Sunanin's fan. As the summon swung his sickle, a blast of hurricane-force winds leveled everything within a 100-meter radius. She may be an all-that genjutsu user, Temari remarked. But she forgot one thing. What's that? Shikamaru asked, puzzled. The Suna Kunoichi grinned widely as she hefted her fan. Everything is not what it seems. If that's the case, we'd better check the area, Shikamaru said. For all we know, she could still be alive. Tamari clicked her tongue again. Doubt it. There's no way anyone could survive an attack like the Kirikiri no Mai. Shikamaru made his way through the damaged landscape. So, whatever happened to everything is not what it seems. He quipped with a knowing smirk. The blonde growled. You're a regular pain, did you know that? Same to you, milady. Same to you. Hinata could not tear away her gaze at the mutated Kimimaro emerging from the sand. What is he? On instinct, Gaara encased the sand around the enemy once more, aiming to restrict his movements, but to no avail. Kimimaro effortlessly broke through the sand, and charged towards him and Hinata. Acting quickly, Gaara raised a wall of compressed sand to protect him and Hinata from Kimimiro's attack, but unbeknownst to him, Kimimiro's state had strengthened his attacks, and he broke through the defense. Fortunately, Hinata managed to repel the attack with a timely kaitan. So even your so-called absolute defense has a limit, Kimimaro taunted. And here I was, expecting a bit more of a challenge. He swung his tail towards Hinata, only to have it caught by Gaara's sand. She's not your only opponent, Kaguya, said the Jinchuriki. Kimimaro growled low in his throat. You are becoming a thorn in my side, Sabaku no Gaara. He pulled out his spine, forming a bone whip. You shall be the first to die. Tessenka no Mai. Tendril. As the whip lashed towards Gaara, the sand converged into a protective cocoon around him. However, Kimimaro had his sights somewhere else. Tightly wrapping the whip around the sand, the Otonin had the redhead trapped. Flower. The bones burst out of his left arm, and formed into a large wedge. The radius and the ulna are two of the thickest bones in my body, Kimimaro went on. It will be more than enough to pierce through your pathetic sand barrier dash. And as he was speaking, he suddenly burst into a fit of hacking coughs, a detail that did not pass unnoticed by a certain Hyuga. He's very sick, she observed. Yet he still perseveres. He truly is someone not to be trifled with. Recovering from his coughing fit, Kimimaro lunged towards Gaara. Your end has arrived. He crowed, driving the bone lance towards its intended victim. Sekau zetai bajyu, shukaku no date. Given the factors, locating Teiwa among all the debris was a fairly quick task. It did not take long for Shikamaru and Tamari to find the redhead pinned down from waist below by a massive log. Tamari shot Shikamaru a look. Told you. She's dead. No, she isn't, the Nara contradicted, placing his hand under Teiwa's nose. She's still breathing, faintly, at least. And look, you can see blood trickling out of her mouth, and blood only flows out from a body when there is still a pulse. Tamari lifted her fan and aimed it over Teiwa. If that's the case, it's best if we put her out of her misery. Wait. The blonde turned to Shikamaru, annoyed. What now? We've practically got a gold mine of information in our hands, Shikamaru explained. Being one of his elite guards, this girl might just tell us what we don't know about Orochimaru. And how exactly are you going to do that? Tamari asked sardonically. Red's not exactly in the condition to sing like a canary. She doesn't necessarily have to be awake to give us answers. All she has to do is stay alive, Shikamaru replied. The Yamanaka clan will take over from there. Now gimme a hand here, we have a lot of work to do. Kimimaro looked up in shock. He usually did not have to resort to the Tessenkai no Mai in his battles, and when he did, all he needed was one hit to kill the enemy. Every armor had a chink, but in the case of Sabaku no Gaara, the Kaguya had to admit that that particular chink was close to non-existent. He pushed harder, trying to force the lance through the compressed sand of the Tanuki's body. But it was all in vain. There was a cracking sound, and the lance shattered within moments. You. Hinata spoke up. You have a Kekai Genkai. Yes, Kimimaro hissed. The feared Shikatsumayaku of the Kaguya clan. So you're the last of your kind, Gaara stated. That means your clan will end with your death. That may be, Kimimaro replied. But even in death, I will not be alone. For as I fulfill Lord Orochimaru's aspirations, I shall stay in his heart forever. He has brainwashed you, the Sunanin noted. You have become nothing more than a soulless husk. He made a hand seal, and the sand around him dispersed and began to sink back into the ground, taking Kimimaro along with it. As the ground swallowed him up, Kimimaro leveled a hateful glare towards his nemesis. You will die with me as well. Sawarubi no mai. Hinata's eyes widened at the chakra fluctuating from beneath the ground. Gaara, watch out. Gaara. You. Pearl eyes turned to teal ones in gratitude and wonderment. You just saved my life. I promised Inuzuka that you would be in good hands, the Ichibi container replied. And I intend to uphold my end of the bargain. Hinata looked at the sand that was levitating both her and Gaara, turned back to her companion and smiled. You have come a long way, Sabaku no Gaara. You definitely deserve a second chance, as did I. She held out her hand. Friends. The redhead stared at the hand offered, before accepting it. Definitely. It's not brainwashing. I followed him willingly. What the hell would you know? In their horror, Hinata and Gaara spun to see Kimimaro phasing through the spike behind them, a bone spear in hand. Immediately, the sand flew up, and Gaara and Hinata braced themselves for the impact, but it never came. The Kaguya was frozen in mid-attack, blood dripping out of his mouth. It is finished. He whispered and breathed his last. A yellow, slitted eye stared into the dying embers of a candle wick. Whatever happens to Kimimaro does not interest me. Sasuke. He's the one that truly matters. A red-headed boy leaned against a tree, relishing its cool shade. That was a close call, wasn't it? He asked a dark-haired girl who was healing her wounds on the other side of the tree. I suppose, she sighed. My cousin always said that fate is not without a sense of irony. He said that, huh? Said the boy. Ironic indeed, for one such as himself to believe in such hogwash. The girl's hands balled into fists. That's enough. She shouted. Neji does have his faults, but please do not speak of him in such a manner. You too, huh? Gaara murmured, looking thoughtful. Insulting the one you admire, enrages you in turn. If the person you admire is important to you. You heard Hinata Hime. You heard her. For you to so easily forgive this freak for hurting my cousin, your teammate does Hinata's condition mean so little dash. For as I fulfill Lord Orochimaru's aspirations, I shall stay in his heart. Forever. It's not brainwashing. I followed him willingly. What the hell would you know? You fight for that person, he finished. He was loyal to a fault, a lot like the Inuzukas. However, the person you are loyal isn't always good. You don't have to be loyal to a bad person, the girl rebutted. Gaara shook his head. Man is neither black nor white, but rather a mass of contradictions, some just more so than others. Woof. Aomeru's bark resounded over the roar of rushing water. Sasuke's trail had led the Inuzuka duo into a secluded valley with a waterfall in its midst. The location itself was nothing out of the ordinary for the area, but what made it special was its historical value, for standing on either side of the waterfall were the statues of Konoha's founding fathers Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha. Closely following his partner, Naruto made his way over Senju's statue to find Sasuke standing on top of the stone head of the ancient Uchiha, as smug as ever. Uchiha. That's it for part 12. Thank you for watching and see you on the next video.